Hey guys, Victor here with another random thought. I am here on vacation in sunny San Francisco. Now, I didn't want to do an entire review here, but I thought I would at least do a random thought. So please enjoy as I explain my favorite racial slurs. First, of course,
Victor? Oh, sorry, but do you have anything to drink?
Yeah, there's some bottled water in the ice bucket.
Thanks.
Anyway, the Mexicans, they... Greg?
Hey, Victor.
What are you doing here?
Well, I saw how upset you were about having to do your Counter Destroyer review alone, so I thought I'd come down and help you review the other Robo Vampire sequel, Devil's Dynamite.
Okay, I'm gonna put off asking how the hell you got here, and instead point out that it wasn't the fact that I was reviewing it alone that pissed me off. It was the fact that it was terrible and not a Robo Vampire sequel.
Well, these things are more fun to review in company anyway.
Well, I'd love to do this review on my vacation, but I didn't bring the DVD with me, so why don't you just march back on home?
Oh, don't worry. I brought the DVD with me.
You're not gonna leave until we do this, are you?
No.
Alright, hit it. Hello, I'm Victor.
I'm Greg.
And this is The Junkyard. Today we'll be looking at Devil's Dynamite, which Greg tells me is another Robo Vampire sequel.
Well, while it doesn't have the Robo Warrior suit, it's probably the closest thing to a legit Robo Vampire sequel that I know of. I know that's not saying much, but hey, it's got evil crime lords hiring Taoist priests to create evil vampire soldiers, and a guy wears a metal suit. I mean, you can smell the Godfrey Ho from here.
Yeah, you're going to be wanting to put up some Febreze pretty soon, but for now, on to the movie.
The film starts with some kind of crime boss dropping in on a Taoist priest. He tells the guy that they need to be careful and then pulls a voodoo doll on him.
Crime boss guy is a dick, not to mention really cheesy at casting voodoo spells. What did the Taoist do to deserve getting his flesh metaphysically burnt like that? Anyway, crime boss has Taoist raise a few vampires.
Vampires are there. Vampires are always there.
Hey.
Well, soon some prisoners are brought in where they manage to totally miss the most conspicuous vampires in any mythology of any culture, including the Chupacabra, until said vampires chomp them.
And note that all they do is bite their necks and move on. In the other two movies, they would at least take good chunks out of their victims.
Next we cut to some ninjas, hopping around and throwing smoke bombs, just the thing a ninja needs to stay hidden. Then they start yelling for Brox.
Boy, howdy, we sure are an elite team of stealthy assassins.
Anyway, they're assigned to eliminate one Stephen Cox.
Stephen Cox is an awesome Chinese name.
True, but apparently it was a setup because they're soon beset by hopping Chinese vampires. Surprisingly, the shinobi school dropouts turn out to be no match for the undead monstrosities.
And here we come to movie B, the film that Godfrey Ho spliced in with his own vampire story. In my humble opinion, the whole Chinese gangster storyline is probably the best of the three Robo Vampire A-plots, and is probably the film I like to see without the vampire stuff stitched in.
It's at least visually interesting, what with I'm pretty sure supposed to be period costumes and set designs, and some decent cinematography. The scene where we're introduced to Stephen Cox walking out of the mist with a light behind him, it comes to mind. Oh, I'm sure the Stephen Cox story, minus the vampires, is far from a masterpiece, but I'd watch it.
More on that later. Now we're introduced to our protagonists, Alex and Habers. Alex asks Habers for information on Cox, he having missed the convenient newspaper boy yelling out the man's life story just outside the building. Suddenly, they're attacked by vampires. Of course they both know Kung Fu, every Asian male does, just as every Asian female knows the art of cowering victimhood, and they manage to hold their own. Suddenly...
Oh, Prince of Space!
Haha, your weapons are useless against him.
Yep, this is our Robo Warrior, Prince of Space, the Gay Blade. No explanations, our protagonist just suddenly transforms like a fucking Power Ranger. And even after the transformation, he and Habers end up running away while everyone else is sucked dry. Alex asks who these guys were, and Habers explains that they were Reynolds' vampire killers.
Vampires? No such thing as that. I don't want to hear anything about I don't believe in vampires. Because I don't fucking believe in vampires. What I believe in my own two eyes, and what I saw is fucking vampires.
About sums it up. Anyway, we see the bad guys examining their damaged vampires, the boss being surprisingly level-headed for a man who sicks voodoo on people just for kicks. After they discuss this new Shadow Warrior... We then cut back to Alex and his frumpy middle-aged sidekick as they conclude that Madame Mary commissioned the vampires because she's afraid of Stephen Cox. What do you figure the odds are that we will not be seeing Steve or Mary in the same frame with a vampire in the entire movie?
Oh, I'd say pretty good. We next see Mary stewing over Steve's release when her new fiancé walks in and tries to comfort her. He's an excessively nice guy with a serious case of Mark Wahlberg in the happening going on. Mary goes upstairs alone and is confronted by Steve.
Stephen Cox.
I just love how everyone keeps calling him Stephen Cox, even people who know him personally. He's just too motherfucking smooth.
Well, she pulls a gun on him, but he reveals that he's already taken the bullets and put them in his glass.
Smooth.
Right. Anyway, he attacks her, but Toy Boy, yes, I said Toy Boy, first Wheels on Meals and now this, chases him off. We next see him at a casino raking it in. He's confronted by Mary's goons and kicks their asses. I would have sent in my army of killer vampires, but then I'm not a criminal mastermind. Yet.
After that, Steve meets up with an old friend, gets attacked again, and kicks their asses again, all while wearing a blue suit and tasteful suspenders. He's like a revenge-crazed James Bond or some awesome Bruce Lee villain. Then cut to the Taoist fixing up his vampires, using the same medical sparklers we once saw used on Robo Warrior.
Do these movie Taoists have to go through all these kung fu dances for every ritual? I like to imagine he has to do this for everything, even pouring Fruit Loops.
Go.
Cut to Mary and Toy Boy having some kind of party, which Steve crashes and, by uncovering some scammers at her gambling table, poops.
Stephen Cox, evil mastermind who also casually exposes scammers. Smooth.
That has already gotten annoying. Anyway, Steve and Mary have a little back and forth, where he points out that he's not afraid of her vampires, reminding the audience that these two movies are supposed to be connected, and then gets chased off by Toy Boy.
Next we get a scene of some kids playing. Suddenly this vampire kid, or maybe just a kid dressed like a vampire, starts...
Ah!
What?
It's him!
Oh yeah, it's the vampire spawn from Counter Destroyer. Did Godfrey film both these movies on the same day, or did he just think the kid was so compelling that he brought him back for this one? Anyway, some vampire ninjas show up for no reason, and then Robo Shadow Warrior Alex is there somehow, and they fight. But maybe the girl was a ghost, and why does the boy sound like a 45-year-old transvestite?
Well, at this point, the movie starts getting a bit repetitive. Steve Cox menaces Mary
Smoothly.
Alex, who people have started to call Futuristic Warrior, fights more vampires and people do things for reasons. Seriously, I have no idea who any of these people are or why they're doing whatever they're doing. Some of them are looking for Steve's gold, I think, but who knows. Then Habers gets bitten by a vampire. After he kills himself, the good Taoist takes his place as Futuristic Warrior's frumpy middle-aged sidekick.
Finally, though, things pick up. Stephen Cox is kidnapped by people, maybe Mary's thugs, maybe his own thugs, maybe they're freelance, I don't know. Anyway, they force him to show them where the gold is hidden. Meanwhile, good Taoist offers to teach Futuristic Warrior some new techniques.
These new techniques as vampires will be no problem. Believe it! Sorry, got caught up.
Well, they dig up the gold and, wow, he actually got a treasure chest to bury his gold in.
Because he's so smooth.
But, before the thugs can kill Cox, he turns them against their boss, since they're the most easily duped henchmen ever. And then some other guys show up and gives them all the money, but... Goddamn it, who are all these people?
Probably doesn't matter, because now we cut to Madame Mary's wedding, which, despite being extremely heavily guarded, doesn't have any vampires keeping watch anywhere. There they actually step away from the altar to take a phone call. You'd think they would have left the phone off the hook. Anyway, it's Alex on the other end, warning her about Steve Cox.
Alright, I admit, I love watching these Godfrey Ho movies. At every opportunity, he tries to splice in something or dub in something that makes it seem like these two movies are part of the same movie. You know, 1 minute, Stephen Cox will be doing his normal thing, and then he'll suddenly say, "Oh, and I'm not afraid of your vampires either, because they're in another movie."
Wouldn't it be awesome if all movies did that?
Do what you will with me, parole board, but Dr. Malcolm will stop your dinosaur army. Well, Steve Cox sabotages the wedding and kidnaps Madame Mary in the confusion. Toy Boy follows them down a secret passage, but finds Mary dead, Steve's revenge now complete. Then cut to Futuristic Warrior, who is undergoing the most elaborate Taoist ritual yet. It's one clown on a life journey away from being a Cirque du Soleil performance.
Speaking of clowns, when these two find out that Mary is dead, they start preparing the vampires for final combat.
Wait, why? Madame Mary is dead. What stake does the vampire herders have in all of this? Why don't they just set up shop in another city? You know, one that doesn't have a reflective shadow warrior?
And at this point, the good Taoists start throwing dolls at Futuristic Warrior, who absorbs them into his body so they can make him do jerky dance moves. It actually makes less sense in context, believe it or not.
Now this next fight gets pretty boring, so let me sum up. Futuristic Shadow Robo Warrior gets his ass handed to him. Suddenly proving himself the real hero of the film, Good Taoist bursts in and slaps a construction paper vampire onto Warrior's back. This, much to the alarm of the bad guys, makes him do the robot, appropriately, and moonwalk.
What? Fuck the B plot. Fuck it long and hard.
Actually, I think it's the A plot.
It's the B plot.
Well, this all does wonders for Futuristic Warrior, who manages to defeat the vampires while the Taoists fight. Reynolds, the white voodoo priest, tries to flee, but is killed by a brotherly hug from a Shadow Warrior. Good Taoist destroys Reynolds' voodoo doll, but not actually evil Taoist vomits up a pine cone, some rubber tubing, and a frog?
Just breathe, Greg. Anyway, this half of the movie gets a happy ending. Unfortunately, now we go to Steve Cox's half. He's holed up in an abandoned house, and a shootout between him and the cops ensues. They decide to smoke him out, but he just calls for Toy Boy to come up and talk with him.
Smooth.
Where he explains that the hapless dope's fiancé was a criminal mastermind who took everything from him, and likely would have done the same again. He tosses Toy Boy out of the house before it crashes down. He stands calmly as the house is consumed around him, ending the cycle of revenge, and the film ends.
And thus died Stephen Cox. We'll miss him. He was a smooth dude.
But anyway, the film. Like I said, the Stephen Cox stuff was pretty compelling. Confronting the fiancée of the woman he murdered in a house engulfed in flames. A lot of good artistic ideas here, with a pretty decent execution. I just wish I could have made sense of the whole kidnapping gang war thing that was going on.
As for the vampire story, I'd rate it as the strongest in the series. There was a bit of padding there with the vampire kid, who succeeds in being the creepiest Kenny in film history. Keep in mind that Kennys, the kids that inexplicably show up in every Asian monster film, have a tradition of wearing sailor hats and short shorts, so being the creepiest Kenny is what I consider an achievement. But overall, a fun film.
Okay, so we saved this for last. What's up with the Robo Warrior stand-in? They don't ever explain anything about him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was called Futuristic Warrior, but all I ever saw him do was kung fu and magic. No, he didn't use any future weapons. Is that all it was? He just wore an aluminum foil outfit?
Is that how it works? You pick a random theme and now you can suddenly go fight crime?
Excuse us for a moment.
Hi, I'm Smooth Warrior. This is Pirate Warrior, and this is the Junkyard. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're gonna go kill some vampires.
Yar! There'd be just one problem. I don't think vampires are real.
Well, there are plenty of scene kids around. They're kind of like vampires.
Yar! I love California!
Okay, so, turns out San Francisco breeds some pretty aggressive scene kids. Learn something new every day.